Oh, I'm very fine.
Good, good. Glad to hear that. Yep. Today we're learning about healthy soils. So I'm going to get the lesson ready just now. Hold on. Um, just share my screen 1 second. Okay, let me just get this ready. Okay, so this is a pay what you can afford lesson, of course. So if you do want to make a contribution, the details are on screen. So just bear with me 1 moment while I get this ready. Done. Okay. Okay. All right. So, yep, welcome to the lesson. Today's lesson is on healthy soils. These lessons are all free of charge, but if you do want to make a contribution, your contribution will go directly to my charitable campaign, which is called Help Hanoi's Homeless. If you're in Vietnam, you can use the QR code here to make a payment. Um, Alternatively, if you're outside of Vietnam, you can pay using PayPal, using the PayPal email address ax.english.tutoring@gmail.com. And all of any donations, any money will be used to help needy families within Hanoi. If you're in Vietnam, you can use the QR code here to make payment. Repeating myself. Alternatively, if you're outside of Vietnam, stop you can pay using PayPal, using the making me repeat. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's start with the video. Okay, so we'll start with the video on healthy soils. So we'll just watch this now.
Healthy soils, the foundation of healthy food and a better environment. Despite all our technological developments, humanity still relies on a few centimeters of soil to survive. 95% of our food is produced by farmers in our soils. It all starts in soils, where food begins. Healthy soils provide plants with nutrients. 18 elements are essential for plant growth. 3 are obtained from the atmosphere by photosynthesis, and the rest comes from the soils. Soil fertility is the ability to provide essential nutrients and favourable chemical, physical and biological characteristics for soil organisms and plant growth. When soils are degraded and nutrients are not replenished after a harvest, they lose their capacity to nurture life. Over the last 70 years, the level of vitamins and nutrients in food has drastically decreased. The loss of soil fertility leads to low crop yield and crop failure. It also leads to hunger, malnutrition and poverty. When nutrients are in excess, they spread into the environment, polluting water and contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. Polluted soil puts our food chain and the health of our planet at risk. What can we do? Adopt long-term sustainable soil management practices, to enable farmers to restore soil health. Agricultural policies should prioritise nutritional value and safety of food over crop yields. The fertiliser code should be a guiding tool to avoid the underuse, misuse and overuse of fertilisers. The quality of fertilisers should be of public access and monitored by reference laboratories. To avoid deficiencies, it is essential to include micronutrients in soil fertilisation plans. The use of pulses, crop diversification and rotation should be promoted. Fertilisation should be combined with innovations such as biofertilisation, nutrient recycling, biofortification and biostimulants. When we support farmers in bringing back life to soils, we're ensuring the future of our food and the planet. Healthy soils for healthy planet, food and people.
Okay, so a little bit about healthy soils there. Now, what I want to do is quickly go through some vocabulary. So we've got the vocabulary bank here with some of the words we can learn. But what I want to do is open up one of the games here so that we can just practice the vocabulary in the form of a game rather than reading it from a list. So just bear with me while I open that up. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to play Guess What. I want you to try to figure out which the correct word is. Okay. Which is the correct word? So we'll have a choice of initially 3 words. And we'll have some clues on this side. So we've got organism, nurture, and capacity. This is a
It
noun,
is
and
capacity.
it is well done. So we've got the similar word, which is size. Very good. A transitive verb now. They've launched a campaign to something awareness of the dangers of alcohol. So which word could go in the blank there?
Promote would be fit.
Promote is exactly right. Well done. Very good. Next, we have the condition of being poor or lacking the necessary means of support, also known as indigence or
The word is poverty.
poverty is right. Well done. Next up, we have a transitive verb and a synonym is refill. So to refill something.
The word is replenish.
Replenish. Very good. So you're doing great. Next, we have a transitive verb. The example is she carefully her tiny plants.
Nurture.
Nurtured her tiny plants. Very good. So that would be in the present simple nurtures or past tense nurtured. Very good. Okay. Next, we have an adjective and a related word is natural. So what could the word be?
It would be biological.
Biological is right. Anything related to life, to biology. Next, we have a noun and a similar word is food. So
It
food.
is nutrient.
Nutrient, yeah, because we get nutrients within our food like vitamins and minerals. Next, we have a transitive verb and the opposite word is clear.
It would be pollutes.
Pollute is right, yeah, because it's not clear. We make something dirty, unpleasant, or unhealthy by infusing it with waste material. Very good. We have an adjective now and a related word is good. So when something is working, it's good.
It is favorable.
Favorable, very good. Yep, a favorable weather report when something is going our way, showing the promise of something good. Next, we have a transitive verb, and the opposite word is advance. That's an antonym. So what's the opposite of
So the
advance?
opposite is degrade.
Degrade, very good. To bring something down to a lower level. All right, great job. Almost done now. And next we have a noun, and a related word is change. So
The word it would be innovation.
innovation, very good. Yep. So a new method, idea, approach. An adjective now, something farming generally involves crop rotation.
It would be sustainable.
Sustainable, very good. So sustainable, something that could be kept going for a long time. Now we have an adjective, something energy.
Um, uh, it would be biological.
No, let's have some clues. This means more than required, expected, or considered reasonable, extra or additional.
It would be excess energy.
Excess is right. Well done. Next, we have a noun. The water sample contains numerous kinds of tiny something.
Organism.
Organisms, very good. So we would pluralize that because it says numerous, so it would say organisms, really. Next, we have a noun, and the example is, it was his something that brought about his efforts to end the suffering of others.
It was his humanity that brought.
Humanity, very good. Fantastic. Okay, doing really well. Let's do one more where we put them into the correct, well, we use them, the correct form in the correct sentence, okay? So the new glasses, something her to see more clearly.
Enable.
Enable, very good. Something of this machinery can be dangerous.
Misuse of this machinery.
Misuse, very good. Adding something to your soil will help your crops to grow.
Adding fertilizers to your soil.
Fertilizer, very good. With little industry or technology, the country relies on something for its primary means of support for its people.
The country relies on agriculture to its for its
Agriculture, very good. As their experiment began to yield results, the scientists worked in their something late into the night.
The scientists worked in their laboratory.
Laboratory, yep. So you might hear it pronounced laboratory or laboratory. Yep, very good. The successful knee surgery seemed to her youth.
To seem to restore the youth.
Restore her youth, very good. You need to eat more, such as peas and lentils.
You need to eat more pulses.
Pulses, very good. You have an iron. You need to eat iron-rich foods like spinach.
You have an iron deficiency.
You have an iron deficiency. You need to eat iron-rich foods like spinach. Very good. This license you to fish in all the lakes of the area.
Enables.
Enables you to fish in all the lakes of the area. Very good. The new government took quick measures to order in the country.
To restore order in the country.
Restore order. Very good. The of a larger planet is slower than that of a smaller planet.
The rotation of a
The
larger planet.
rotation of a larger planet. Very good. With improved methods of farming flourished in the area.
Agriculture.
Agriculture, well done. Great job. I live in an area of the state where there are many cornfields.
I live in an agricultural area.
Yep, very good. An agricultural area. The ability to tasks is essential to good management.
The ability to Prioritize tasks.
Prioritize tasks. Very good. Our of fertilizer has led to environmental issues caused by the excess fertilizer running off into the streams.
Our overuse of fertilizer.
Very good. Now, this should say the policy. Instead, it says he policy. The policy may also offer improved energy security through of energy sources.
Through diversification of energy sources.
Very good. Right, well done. Fantastic job. Well done. Okay. All right. So, what we're going to do now is we will quickly go through this reading quiz, and then we'll do some conversation practice. Okay. So first of all, how many elements are needed to help plants to grow? Is it 18, 20, or 80?
I remember 20.
It's not 20, I'm afraid. It's less than that.
So it is 18.
It is 18. Yep, very good. So 18 nutrients are required. And photosynthesis provides how many of these elements? Is it 1, 2, or 3?
Photosynthesis provide 3 elements.
3 of the elements, yep. Okay, the rest are provided by the soils. So what is soil fertility?
The ability of the soil to allow plants to grow is best fit.
That's absolutely right. And what happens when nutrients are not put back into the soil after a harvest?
The soil loses its ability to grow plants.
That's exactly right. Well done. In the last 70 years, the amount of nutrients in our food has fallen. Is that true, false, or not given?
It is true.
True. Very good. And low soil fertility leads to
Crop failure.
crop failure is right. Very good. Low soil fertility leads to
It is also leads to low crop yield.
low crop yield. Very good. Failed crops cause
It causes hunger.
they cause hunger. Yep, very good. That's great. Failed crops cause
Malnutrition.
malnutrition. Very good. And when there are too many nutrients in the soil, what happens?
Too many nutrients in soil leads to the leak into the surrounding environment.
They leak into the surrounding environment. Well done. When nutrients spread into the environment, it pollutes the water. Is that true, false, or not given?
It is true.
It is true. Well done. What should agricultural policies prioritize? Higher crop yield or safety of food?
Safety of food.
Safety of food is right. Well done. And what should they prioritize? Nutritional value or mechanization?
Nutritional value.
Nutritional value. Very good. All right, great job. Right, let's move on to some speaking. Let's move on to some questions now. So we've got some questions about how do we make farming smarter? How do we make it more sustainable? Okay, so let's start with this first question here. So what are the main problems with traditional farming? What are the main problems with traditional farming?
The main problems with traditional farming is mainly the efficiency. It is also they also farm one type of plants, which can lead to the losses of certain elements and nutritions of, but there are also other elements that are still full and not use efficient.
Okay, so there's a few things there. So one of the main problems with traditional farming is that they plant only one type of crop, which is known as a monoculture, when there's only one type of thing growing, and that can lead to numerous different problems. It's also not the most efficient way to farm, and it can also lead to problems like fertilizer runoff and pollution. Um, yeah. So you mentioned before about one type of thing being planted, which is called a monoculture. Mono meaning one, culture meaning something that grows and develops over time. How can we avoid creating monocultures when farming?
We can switch crops when seasons come,
Mhm.
because each seasons is can be matched with certain crops, and many crops can only grows in uh, springs or summer, while
Mm.
autumn and winter the fields are left empty and not um, utilize its potential.
So you're saying that many crops can only grow during certain seasons, so spring or summer. Um, but what the question is about how do we avoid monocultures? So let me just show you a picture of a monoculture. If we type in monoculture into Google Images, what we get is a picture of rows and rows and rows of the same thing growing, which is what you mentioned earlier, isn't it? So how do we avoid growing the same thing over and over? What can we do to ensure that we're not just growing rows and rows of the same thing, that we're growing different types of vegetables, different types of fruit, different plants?
We
What
can alternate the
alternate what?
crops, alternate the crops between
Hmm.
seasons, or we can planting two types of plants or crops
Right.
simultaneously.
Yeah. Yep. So you could plant you could plant different types of crop. Yeah. And when you were talking about planting different things in different seasons, what you're talking about there is something called crop rotation, which we will go through a little bit later. We'll talk about crop rotation a bit later. Um, if we're looking at how to avoid a monoculture um, in farming, well, what we can do is we can find crops. There are some certain crops that actually grow quite well next to each other, and this is called, as you can see from the picture, a polyculture. So you see here, there's different rows of crops. Can you tell me any reason why growing a polyculture might be better for the environment, for the farmer, and just generally than growing a monoculture? What benefits could a polyculture have over a monoculture?
Polycultures brings the diversity in um, in crops. It's also bring more nutri it also creates diversity in nutritions in the food.
Um,
It
yes,
also
continue.
it's also utilize the amount of nutrition and elements that are in the soil.
Yeah, so
For
that can
the
be an advantage is that certain while certain while certain plants will absorb a large amount of a certain element from the soil, other plants may return that element to the soil. So, for example, there are certain plants that will use up the nitrogen in the soil, while there are others called nitrogen fixers, which return nitrogen to the soil, which allows other plants to grow. So that's one of the benefits of crop rotation, but we'll talk about that later. Um, Another advantage of a polyculture is that it stops the spread of disease from one plant to another. How does a polyculture stop plant diseases from spreading?
um polycultural stop plants from mass diseases by when you creating uh when you creating rows of different types of crops on the field, it is harder to for crop for type or for one type of crops
Yeah,
uh to transmit
yeah,
the disease on the other rows on the other planes of the same type of
yeah.
crops on the field.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Uh, an
Um,
example of not planning of monoculture that have suffered from mass diseases because of monocultures is the potato famine
yes,
in
you're
Ireland.
absolutely right. Yep. So what was the potato famine or the potato blight? What do you know about that? What was it? What was it called? What was it? How did it work? What was it?
I remember it is a certain type of bacteria or mushrooms.
I think it was a fungus actually, wasn't it? Rather than a bacteria. But yes, so the potato blight of Europe or the potato famine made potatoes look like this, and they were not able to be eaten. There's no nutritional value to that, and I'm not sure if it's dangerous to eat, but it doesn't certainly doesn't look very appetizing. Um, and as far as I know, the potato blight originated in Mexico, I think. I'm not entirely sure. Now, why is it that the potato blight was spread all over Europe? Why did it spread all over Europe so easily? Why did that happen? Why did it spread so quickly from one plant to another? Any idea?
Uh,
Wonder if we
I
can see
think
on
it's
this.
spread. I don't. I'm not very sure. I don't know about. I don't know much about how it's transmitted.
Well, the reason the potato blight spread so rapidly across Europe was because in the 16th century, or yeah, in the 16th century, potatoes were brought to Europe from South America. And the potatoes were so good at providing nutrients and calories for the amount of space that they take up to grow. They take up a very small space and they provide an enormous amount of food that the potatoes became super popular in Europe. Everybody was growing potatoes. Okay. They were grown everywhere because you could grow other things and people did grow other things. But why would you grow something that takes up a lot of space and doesn't provide much nutrients, much food? Doesn't provide many nutrients, I should say, or much food, when you could just grow potatoes. So entire farms became potatoes. And what this meant was that when one potato got infected with the potato blight, which was a fungus, it would infect the potato next to it, and the one next to that, and then the plant next to that. And then before you know it, the entire farm has been infected, and the farm next door has been infected, and the farm next to that has been infected, and the farm next to that, and the farm next to that. And before you know it, the entire continent has been infected, and all of the potatoes are inedible. And you can see how it worked here. This is sort of the cycle of it. And even in the winter, when all the potatoes die, the pathogen still survives. So next spring, when you plant the potatoes again, the pathogens are still there in the soil. So this is one danger of monocultures, right? Um, are you familiar with, and I'm sure you absolutely are, the Cavendish banana? So here's a Cavendish banana, okay? Now this is a type of banana that is the most popular kind of banana in the world. There are this is if you most bananas that you can buy are Cavendish bananas, right? But up until the 1950s, this banana called the Gros Michel was far more popular. And the Gros Michel actually is supposed to be sweeter, much tastier. And I think actually it lasts longer, and is sort of, lasts longer. So you can have it for longer. And all round is a better banana. So why is it that we tend to eat the Cavendish instead of the Gros Michel? Any idea? Any guesses?
Mm.
There's a very good reason, actually. The reason why is that the Cavendish is resistant to a certain fungus. And that fungus devastated the Gros Michel in, I think, in the 50s or the 60s. I can't remember. And that made it very hard for farmers to make any money from the Gros Michel because they kept getting infected and dying, or becoming inedible. So are you familiar with when you were younger, did you ever eat uh, the candy foam bananas? They look like this. Did you ever eat these as a child?
I No, I haven't eaten this.
Yeah, I imagine that I've never seen them in Vietnam myself, but they're a very popular sort of sweet treat in the UK where I'm from. They're sort of like a foamy banana candy. about 3 centimeters big, not very big. Very good for you, very tastes very good, but very bad for your teeth. Okay, and these bananas, these actually predate the proliferation of the Cavendish banana. So they're actually the taste of them is based on the Gros Michel. So the ironic thing is that people who eat these bananas, these candy bananas, um, they're actually tasting a banana that they themselves have probably never eaten. And they are very, very sweet. They don't taste like normal bananas. They taste very, very sweet, obviously, partly because they're candy, but also probably in part because they're based on a sweeter banana than the common Cavendish. So that's another problem with monocultures is when we produce all the same thing, it can all die all at once. Let's move on to some other questions. What is vertical farming? Can you tell me what vertical farming is? Have you ever heard of this? Let's have a look at some pictures.
Vertical farming is like you have rows
Yeah.
of in like on the shelves
Yeah.
to utilize the space
That's
of
correct. Yeah.
mm, and vertical farming also come along with uh hydraulic
Hydroponic, I think you're talking about
hydroponic.
hydroponic farming,
Hydroponic.
which this is vertical hydroponic farming. So yes, you're quite right. It is often combined with hydroponic farming. And you are right as well. Vertical farming utilizes the third dimension by instead of going outwards in 2 dimensions, it rises up into the third dimension, going upwards. What's the advantage of vertical farming? Why could that be a good thing?
Pardon me, can you repeat it again?
What are the advantages of vertical farming?
Well, it is certainly to mm, utilize the space, and
Yeah.
it it's also increase the crops yield
Yeah.
because it is combined with hydroponic farming, and hydroponic farming is certainly a very efficient ways of farming.
Hydroponics certainly is. Can you tell me about hydroponics? What is hydroponics?
It is like mm, instead of planting the crops on soil and on a full soil and dirt field, it is
Hmm.
planted into small pots of dirt or fertilizers, and beneath the pots are streams of waters that are contain nutritions and elements that are crucial to the growth of the crops.
Yeah, so they essentially, as the image shows here, they essentially have water with fertilizer in it that is then run through a channel over the roots of the plant, and the plant absorbs the nutrients and grows. And then what's returned is what's returned. So the advantage of this, of course, is it can be applied to vertical farming, as you say, which economizes space. It saves a lot of space. You don't need soil. That's another thing. You don't need soil. You only need water. And another thing is you can add in the exact right amount of nutrients that are needed. So if it needs more nitrogen, you can add more nitrogen. If it needs more phosphorus, you can add more phosphorus. If it needs more magnesium, you can add more magnesium. So you can really sort of engineer it to be exactly how it needs to be with hydroponics. So it's a very useful system. Um, and of course, it can be applied to vertical farming as well, which utilizes the space properly and means that we don't have to use as much space for farmland. Why is it a good idea not to use so much space for farmland? Why is that? Why could it be a problem if we're using too much space for
Because
farmland?
um, from my perspective, it is because um, to to increase the size of farmland
Mm,
in 2D dimensions, it is also meaning you have to need more space, but
mm,
this but the territory you have it's limited, and also
mm,
if you want to have more farm, you have to deforestations instead, and it is
mm.
affect the environment badly.
Yes, it affects the environment badly. So deforestation, of course, can be a terrible thing because we're chopping down far too many trees and rainforests for farmland, and that is destroying biodiversity. It's also getting rid of carbon sink. So what we're saying there is a carbon sink is like a big forest, a big rainforest that sucks a lot of the carbon out of the atmosphere and sequesters it in within the wood itself or underground in the soil, which is fantastic. But when we're chopping down that the forests, the rainforests, and things like that, we're not only destroying the habitats of many animals and absolutely decimating biodiversity, but we're also getting rid of trees, which can save us in the fight against climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide. So we've talked a little bit about hydroponics. Are you familiar with aquaponics or aeroponics? Have you heard of these?
Hmm. Um, I've heard of. I think aeroponics is instead of the streams of waters,
Yeah,
it be like the flow
it's
of
it's
gases, and like it's like a mix.
it is a little bit, yeah. So aeroponics is like a mist, as you say, yeah. So it sort of it vaporizes isn't the right word, but it turns the water into a mist. I'm not sure if the term is atomize or I don't think vaporize is the right word, but basically it creates this mist of water and that gently goes over the roots of the plant and instead of them being in the water. So why then? Why on earth would we go to all this trouble of misting the roots when we could just put the roots straight into the water? Why do we do this? Why don't we just stick to hydroponics? Why do we use aeroponics?
I think mm, uh, because I don't know. I'm
It's
not sure if
okay.
my
Lots of people don't know. The advantages of the aeroponic system is Okay, so first of all, it saves water. Second of all, it's less likely to be affected by pests. So when you have roots sitting in water, sometimes what can happen is some kind of pathogen can affect those roots. So for example, you might have some kind of bacteria that in that moist environment grabs onto those roots and infects them and kills the plant. Um, Fast growth is apparently an advantage. I'm not sure why or how that works, but I'm sure we'll find out soon. And it doesn't use pesticides because there's no need for them because their pests are less likely to get on them. And also another thing is that roots have access to more oxygen as well. That's another advantage. So, yep. So a medium such as a cloth separates the plants from their roots and gives them support to grow. A nutrient-heavy mist in the solution chamber is absorbed by the plant's root systems, and a light source enables the plants to photosynthesize and store energy. So that's basically how it works and some of the advantages to it over hydroponics. Um, yeah. So let's see if we can find advantages of aeroponics versus hydroponics. Let's see if we can find, here we go. Let's have a look at this. So they're both good ways of growing plants for sure. And we've also got aquaponics in there. Let me just see if I can get this without opening Instagram up fully. I don't really want to open up Instagram. See if I can open the image on its own. I can, but it's tiny. Let me see if I can get a bigger image. One moment. Okay. Okay, I can open up the image here. Okay, so we've got some advantages and some disadvantages. So hydroponics, the advantages are that the plants grow quickly, it's easier to manage, and uses 80% less water than soil farming. But the downside is it relies heavily on electricity and pumps. Aeroponics, the advantage is it doesn't use as much water. Roots get maximum oxygen, leading to fastest growth, and it's compact, so it's really good for vertical farming. But the disadvantages are that it's more expensive to set up. And then aquaponics, which I really enjoy. I actually have an aquaponics set up myself. The advantages are it's a natural and sustainable system. It produces both fish and crops, so there's that. And there's minimal need for synthetic fertilizers because the fish eat and they excrete fertilizer. Fish poop is very good fertilizer. It's very good for plants. The tricky thing with it is you have to balance the fish health and the plant needs. So, sometimes the fish might die, sometimes the plants might die, so it can be quite tricky in that regard. Okay. So let's talk about crop rotation. What is crop rotation? You mentioned it earlier, but what do we mean by crop rotation?
Uh, Crop rotation is to rotate certain crops after seasons.
Yes. Yeah. And why on earth would we do this? So when we have crop rotation, we have a field A, field B, and field C. Okay. And in the first year, we plant one crop in field A, one crop in field B, and one crop in field C. But then we swap them around in the second year. And then in the third year, we swap them around again. And then in the fourth year, they're back to their original place. Why do we do that? What's the point in that?
Uh, it is the point of proper crop rotation is to utilize the usage of nutrition in the soils. Certain
Yes.
certain plants consume different type of nutrition and elements in the soil to and so to increase the efficient of consuming the nutrition in the soils, it is best to have crop rotation.
Yes, you're quite right. So there's some advantages here that we can see. It prevents disease because, as we mentioned earlier, with things like the potato blight, the disease in the winter, when the potatoes are all dead, the disease stays alive. The pathogen stays alive. So when you bury potatoes, when you dig up the ground and you plant potatoes in the spring, the disease will infect them again. But if you plant carrots instead, or legumes or something else, then the chances are that pathogen won't be able to infect a different plant. And so it should be okay. The second thing is that same thing applies to pests. So you get things that live in the ground and they start feeding on a certain type of thing that you've planted. And if you move them once a year, then they will all presumably not be able to feed on and they will have to migrate to another field in order to continue feeding. So it interrupts the pest cycle. And then thirdly, you get certain plants that take certain things from the soil and certain plants that put things back into the soil. Now we can see here we have fruits like tomatoes, pepper, cucumbers, squash, but potatoes I didn't think were not a fruit or root vegetable, but there you go. Maybe that's a mistake. Melons and corn. And it says they need a lot of phosphorus and some nitrogen. Okay. We've got roots here like carrots, parsnips, radishes, beets, garlic and onions. And they like more potassium and phosphorus than nitrogen. Now, legumes, what they do is they actually put nitrogen back into the soil. So that means that when the legumes move on and these root vegetables move in, there's lots of nitrogen in the soil ready for them, which is very nice of them to leave that behind, isn't it? It's like a little gift for them. And then lettuce, greens, broccoli, spinach, kale, all of that, they need lots of nitrogen. And the legumes will put that back into there. So I guess what it is finding the right way to move them. Like I say, I don't know enough about this, but to move the right things into the right places at the right times to maximize the amount of nutrients that are put into the soil, and also to make sure that the right thing is in the right field at the right time. So there is a science to this. You know, this isn't something, but it is also something that people have known about for thousands of years because farmers have been rotating their crops for thousands of years because they've noticed that it makes things grow much better. So in a pre-scientific time, of course, they wouldn't have known a reason why, but they will have just known that it does in fact work. Okay, so how do we prevent fertilizer runoff? What is something we can do to prevent fertilizer runoff? What is fertilizer runoff to begin with?
Fertilized runoff is when is the overuse of fertilized leads
Yeah, when we
to
overuse fertilizer, yeah. And
it's
what? What happens to the fertilizer?
And the fertilizer, after being overused, will be washed away by rains or the water that you are watering the crops. And it will, and the streams of excess fertilizer will runs into lakes, ponds, and
Mhm.
it will make the and will make the algae it will make the algae blooms,
Mhm.
and it leads to the uh insufficient of oxygens in water of pond lakes and
Mhm. So it
uh,
leads to an insufficient amount of oxygen. So we can see it
yes.
here in this handy little animation. We put the fertilizer down into the soil, and then what happens is it runs off into things like drains, rivers, lakes, streams, and then the algae eats up all that fertilizer and grows and grows and grows. But then it suffocates the lake. It blocks off the light, blocks off the oxygen, and it kills everything underneath because what happens is the stuff that's growing on the bottom of the lake, the seagrasses, as it says here, they need light to come through. And if the algae has blocked off all the light, they all die. And then they start to, as they decompose, they start to release things back into the water, which causes the fish to die as well. And it can kill entire ecosystems. It can be absolutely terrible for the ecosystems. Is there any way to prevent fertilizer runoff? What can we do to
um
prevent it?
Certainly the first ways is to mm, map to control the amounts of fertilizer you put in the fields.
Yep, control the
And
amount that's put on in the field. Don't put too much down for a start. Yeah,
and
that's the first thing.
and as a double protection, you should also build large planes that consumes large amounts of excess excess fertilizer along the streams of a drainage
Y-
line that
Yes.
from the field.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So planting trees or plants or hedges all around your land means that you can, that they call them buffer strips or buffer strips, help to absorb the fertilizer and stop it from running off. Yep, very good. Another way is using slow release fertilizers. So these are special fertilizers that just you don't just kind of put the chemicals straight into the soil. They gradually release them over time, so the rain doesn't wash them all out. And avoid application before heavy rain, keeping fertilizer away from water bodies like rivers and lakes and streams. And there's something here called precision agriculture, which is where you can and it's I believe at the moment it's quite expensive, but you can basically sort of test the soil in different places to see whether it needs more phosphorus or whether it needs more nitrogen or whether it needs more magnesium. And then it can kind of put a little bit in there just to bump it up. And then it's more precise and they get exactly what they need. Okay. I'm going to have to finish here, I'm afraid, but really well done today. Um,
Thank you.
just before I finish, just for anyone who's watching uh, on the live stream, um, this is a pay what you can afford lesson. So if you can afford to send a little money for this lesson, if you've enjoyed this lesson and you'd like me to keep making them, a little bit of a donation would be massively helpful. All donations go to helping needy people here in Hanoi, where I live, through my charitable campaign called Help Hanoi's Homeless. So if you can make a donation via PayPal, the email address is ax.english.tutoring@gmail.com. Or if you're in Vietnam, you can scan the QR code using your banking app and pay directly. So if any donation at all would be greatly appreciated, and it goes a very long way to help people. Okay, so thank you for today. We'll finish there, okay? Is there anything else I can help you with before we go?
Actually, don't have any questions.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll see you again in the next session, and enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
you take care. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.